Hello, and welcome to this edition of People in Transition. I'm your host, Bob Durst. I've been hiring, firing, and mentoring executives, frontline employees, interns, and job seekers in companies around the world through a host of transitions, some difficult, but most very good. I work with people in Hong Kong, India, Australia, and across the United States. What sets them apart? A lot, but there's more they have in common. And one of those commonalities is transition is a part of life. This experience has given me a bird's eye view on a variety of trends, economies, industry disruptors, and transitions that are big and small. It also brought me into contact with the thought leaders and decision makers you need to meet, the people who can make the difference that matters to you right now. Imagine knowing exactly what to do next and how to know it's time to make your big change. The insight track you're going to access during our future episodes is better than a crystal ball. It's the exact information you need to take that next step. Whether you're a new grad applying for your first professional job, someone looking to transition your work experience into a promotion, launching your own company, or maybe even starting to plan your retirement, you're in transition, and this series is for you. We all know transition can be scary, but it doesn't have to be. And it's even fun when you have VIP access to the future you want. Are you tired of the uncertainty of being passed up? We'll share with you the tools and skills that can take your dreams to the front of the line. So, if change is on your horizon, or maybe just the thought of change, you won't want to miss this discussion. It could be the exact edge you need to turn transition into an amazing opportunity. Justin Breen, thank you so much for being with us today on our episode of People in Transition. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Bob.
Hey, Justin, when you were younger, what did you want to be when you, and I'm going to use air quotes here, grew up?
Yeah, so one of the first pictures of me is me as a 6-month-old reading the Chicago Sun-Times when I was sitting on my mom's lap. And so I've basically been a journalist since birth. So what I do now, owning a PR firm, and I was a journalist for 20 years. So basically doing now is what I've always wanted to do.
What were some of the key transition moments that, Justin, occurred to you as you went from that picture of yourself as a young child to where you're at today?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. So I'll give you a story because it's important to understand how my brain is. So my father was 61 when I was born, and my mom was 27, so 34-year difference. So I was born with a story so my dad was driving on the Edens Expressway, which was it's the north-south highway north of downtown Chicago. And so in the early 70s, he was driving on that, and this was before there was a cement median, and it was a grassy median, and drunk driver came across and hit him head on. Should have killed him. I don't know how he survived. And so my mom was his nurse, and she literally nursed him through. So you have to understand, there are stories flowing, flowing in through me like it's a constant. So my dad also, he was this doesn't answer your question, but this is how my brain works. I don't necessarily answer questions. I just think of things on a flying the plane level. But so my dad was a soldier in World War II, first lieutenant. He fought in the Battle of Hurtgen Forest, which is one of the bloodiest battles. And so he died when I was 13. He'd be 104 now. So after he died, I found a diary that he kept of his experiences in World War II in that battle. I don't know how he did it. He was in foxholes and Nazis shooting bombs and missiles, not missiles, but other things like that, mortars. And so he kept that diary, and so I found it after he died. It's my most, besides, my family phone, computer, where I have all my company stuff, it's my most cherished possession. Well, it's my most cherished possession. I don't really care about material things. But anyway, so this diary, I write exactly like he does. Exactly. Boom, 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 boom. Inform and entertain. Like his way of writing, it's beautiful, more beautiful than mine. But I write basically the same way, and so I just have it in me. It's just in me, and so I've always I've just always done what I've had in me. I was meant to do this, so.
Justin, let's just say that a friend of yours calls you up and tells you they've lost their job because their company is going out of business because of this COVID crisis. What are the 3 or 4 things that you tell him he should do right now?
So good question. Let me give you the timeline of how I started my company, and it'll help answer that. So I was working as a full-time journalist, February 10th, 2017. Had a 5-minute meeting with the company's owner and managing editor where I had my job salary cut in half. I did nothing wrong, but journalism, that's what happens. So next few weeks, I tried to find a full-time job, couldn't find a job. Incorporated my company, which is called Brepic, on April 16th, 2017. So over the next 6 weeks, while I was while I was working full-time at half the salary, I had started my company. I reached out to 5,000 people to get my first 5 clients, so 1 out of 1,000, 999 no's for every yes. Got my 5th client June 1st. Resigned June 2nd, and then Robert Feeder, he's the top media columnist in the Midwestern portion of the United States, did a story. I'd started my own firm. All of that is, I hate the word advice. It's just not a good word for me, but it's like that's, if you're going to start a business, that's what it takes, just to start it, just to get it off the ground. That level of commitment, that level of hustle, that level of reaching out to people. So that whether you're trying to find a job or whether you're wanting a business, are you going to put in the work or not? The highest level entrepreneurs in the world, which, that's who my clients are now, they just put the work in. Less talk, all action. Just get it done. Put in the work.
Justin, how do you think a recruiter or a hiring manager reacts today when they hear that you've been laid off? And a follow-up to that, I guess, is that how can you better manage that message that I've been laid off?
Yeah, so if you haven't been laid off or you had your job salary cut in your career, that's just life. I mean, corporate world, if you just look at it, you can look at it in journalism or any other corporate vertical. You move up the ladder and eventually you get pushed out. That's kind of how it works, or you retire. So whatever, that's just life. So people that try to cover that up or not embrace that, or that doesn't make any sense to me. I think, one of the main reasons why my company's been so successful is I just embrace it. That's just life. So what I've learned is that most people, not all, cost scarcity mindset people, they just use things as an excuse. So people, the highest level thinkers, they have no excuses. You just get stuff done. No, you don't make excuses. You just figure it out. So that's why I like working with people with visionary abundance investment mindset. There's no excuses. They just get stuff done, take action.
So Justin, do you think if you were laid off or furloughed from your job, do you think that you should take some time off before you start searching for that next opportunity?
Boy, that's a really interesting question. I've done a lot of media since I started my company and a lot of interviews, definitely this year since my book came out. No one has ever asked me that. But it's a really good question because the highest level thinkers that I know, the answer is no. No excuses, just figure it out. But here's the other thing that I've learned is that a lot of folks, this is different but the same. A lot of entrepreneurs, they start their companies, they sell them for a big payday or whatever. And that is a time actually where it is a good time to take some time off and recharge. Because starting a business from ground zero is the hardest, like getting a job, nothing compared to how difficult it is to start a business. It's not even close. It's the hardest day of corporate is nothing, not even close to the hardest day of entrepreneurship. That's why most people can't become high-level entrepreneurs, because they can't handle potential bankruptcy. They can't handle overwhelming anxiety, depression. Most of the entrepreneurs I know have had very traumatic experiences as a child and young adult. So most people can't handle one of those 4 things, if not all 4. So that's why they stay in corporate. That's why they get a job. That's what entrepreneur life really is. So taking time off, it's fine. Go for it. Recharge a little bit. But I see it as just get back to work. Figure it out. I know when I had my job salary cut in half, I think maybe took 8 hours to reflect on that. Maybe. Probably less than that. And I just got back to work.
Some of our listeners, Justin, are entrepreneurs or want to be entrepreneurs, and you paint this picture in terms of the challenges of starting that up. What's there that makes it so challenging? What are the things that you have to
Entrepreneur
deal with? Yes.
life? Yeah, I laugh because it's like, so people think, so my company's insanely profitable and I work with some of the most amazing people and brands on earth, right? Okay, great. People are very happy about that, and I really appreciate that. They didn't see me at 3 in the morning when I had job salary cut in half with 0 clients. They don't see that. They don't see that part of things. So people who have never left corporate have no idea what entrepreneur. They just have no. It's like they think I'm an alien. They don't know what I'm talking about. But again, corporate world, my most difficult day in corporate, which probably was the day I had my job salary cut in half. By the way, that's the best thing that's ever happened to me. But at the time, it was probably the most difficult day I had in corporate. Nothing, not even close to the top 50 worst days I've had as an entrepreneur. Not even close. That feeling, it's nothing. So again, most people cannot, and thank God they can't handle it, because if the world only had entrepreneurs, nothing would get done. You need integrators to follow up on the visionary wackadoodness to actually execute stuff. That's why higher ed as a whole, until now, it's starting to change, but higher ed as a whole is basically it's just a job force creator. That's all. It's designed to get people jobs to serve the visionary wackadoos at the highest level. I mean, if you look up why higher education was even created, it was just created by super wealthy people to create a job force. That's basically what it is. So now insert COVID, and higher ed's being forced to pivot and think more entrepreneurial, because people aren't going to pay $50K a year to sit in front of a computer and go to Zoom University. They're not going to do that. So it's great that higher ed and all these other ivory tower verticals that have been raking in dough for centuries doing the same nonsense, that they're forced to pivot and become more entrepreneurial thinking. And that's happening across the whole with basically any type of company. Figure it out. Become more entrepreneurial. That goes for employees as well.
Justin, what does taking care of your personal brand mean to you, and how do you improve on that personal brand?
Bob, that's a really good question. It's very interesting to me because most people don't understand that 100% of people have good stories, 100%, not 99%. Everyone has a good story. They just don't know it. When I started this company, this story makes me laugh. This story makes me laugh every time. So when I started my company, I was talking to an old fuddy-duddy. He's been in PR forever, right? So he's like, "Oh, the number one rule of PR is you don't talk about yourself." I started laughing because I'm like, here's a guy that's on his way out, has no idea what's going on in the real world. But also, it's actually the opposite. It's the number one rule is you do talk about yourself. I mean, look, you started a podcast, okay? You ever think you'd be doing that? Probably not. I have well over 40,000 followers on social media, constantly talking about the cool things that I'm up to, that my clients are up to. And so I created a successful global company just by doing that. I mean, because people want stories. They want connectivity. They want relationships. And so as everything kind of evolves and pivots or whatever, the two things that never change are relationships. Relationships grow. They always grow in value. And then stories. We're a world of storytellers. People want to know who you are and what you do, but first they want to know who you are. And then that's what really matters. It's mindset 1 and network 2. All this other stuff is just landing the plane, but mindset 1, network 2.
You talked about your 40,000 contacts. How should I use LinkedIn or other social media tools while I'm going through my transition?
See, here's what's good about your questions. It's because you're landing the plane, but you do it in a way that's very interesting, and that will help your listeners. So that's a good question there. LinkedIn expert, that term, that always makes me laugh, because LinkedIn expert is just full of BS. It's the LinkedIn expert. No. It's all organic. Be organic. A lot of financial people post these articles, the cookie cutter nonsense. It's like, be yourself, have a voice, find your tribe, do things that you would like doing, and post things that you would want to read or look at on LinkedIn, and then the right people will find you. It's interesting, LinkedIn specifically. When I started my company, I maybe had 2,000 followers. Now I have over 23,000, because I saw the value. I immediately recognized the value in terms of a business perspective and a global connectivity perspective from LinkedIn specifically. And it just keeps going and going. LinkedIn has led to hundreds of thousands of dollars in contracts for my firm, insane levels of connectivity. I do what's called a grateful journal every Monday through Friday. Just be like, hey, I talked to these awesome people today, and then I tag them in it, and that just creates a lot of good vibes. So that's just one of the many things I do on LinkedIn.
Do you think there's a difference between switching jobs and reinventing yourself? And if you think they're different, do you do different types of job searches between those two?
Man, even the term job search, like, I don't even know what it would be like to search for a job now. Now, what I will say is what I do for people is, like, people are constant. Somehow, organically, what's happened is I help gajillion people help them find jobs. I just like to do it. So what I do for that is, like, I'll talk to someone and be like, hey, send me 3 bullet points of what you like to do and what you're good at. And then I'll post that on LinkedIn to my 23,000 followers, and then I'll tag you in it. And then, many times people see that because I have such a big following of high-level people, they'll reach out and then connect with that person. I know that's helped lots and lots of people get jobs. So that's great for that. But, again, mindset 1, you have the right mindset, you attract people with the same mindset. And then 2 is network. It's when you have the right network, those type of opportunities will just find you. They'll find you. I mean, I haven't done outbound sales, anything, any of that funnel garbage sales, whatever that is. That's just nonsense to me. I just create value for people through my amazing network, and then they create value for me. Create value.
Justin, I'm sure some of your friends are not as connected, outgoing as you are, and networking strikes terror in their hearts.
Okay, well,
how do you help those people?
No excuses. That's not an excuse. No excuses. Started my company. I was in all these lower level networking groups. Like, I don't need a painter. Like, no. So 82% of entrepreneurs don't have mentors when they start a company or business. 82% do not. So I was one of the 18% that did. I had several. And so after like a year and a half, I was talking to one of my mentors. I'm like, I can't go to another one of these nonsensical meeting. And so she recommended a group called Provisors. That was a good national one. That led me to Strategic Coach, which is the best investment I made by far since starting this company. Then that led me to Entrepreneurs Organization, which is an incredible international entrepreneurial group. And then that led me to Abundance 360, which is arguably the top intellectual mindset organization in the world, with the top most brilliant, successful people in the world. So it's step by step. But to get started, okay, you're terrified. Would you like to eat? Would you like to feed your children? Okay, there's no excuses. Just go out and do it. That's what I've never understood. Like, okay, you're afraid of people. Whatever, figure it out. It's interesting that, because you said that, I think maybe you called me an extrovert or something like that. I'm actually an ambivert. If you get me in a discussion that's not about this or my family, regular party talking about average things, I'll sit in the corner and say nothing. I have nothing to say. But if you get me in this setting, because I'm so passionate about it, and to go back to your very first question, like, what did you see yourself doing growing up? I'm so passionate about doing this that I could talk about it nonstop. And that energy, it magnetizes the right people with my mindset. And usually, not always, but usually people with those mindsets that I have, investment, visionary abundance, they're running high 6-figure to 10-figure businesses. That usually, there's exceptions, but that's why I'm so direct and so intentional with how I talk, because it's a magnet for attracting people that I want to be hanging out with.
In your role, you have seen hundreds, if not thousands, of resumes.
Oh God, yes.
How do you get your resume to stand out in the stack of resumes that are being received?
So one, I'm amazed people are still even using resumes. That's just so antiquated that's amazing to me. I have not looked at anyone's resume since starting my company. When someone's like, oh, do you want to look at my resume? I go, no. And then the people that I hang out with, they're not going to look at your resume. They're gonna talk to you and realize right away if you're the right fit or not. They're gonna know. That's why I ask when people are trying to find jobs. I don't post a resume. I say, here's 2 to 3 bullet points of what you like to do and what you're good at, and that will magnetize the people that. So getting your resume to stand out, no. It's talking to the right people who can make the right connections. And so it's very interesting because, business development, the terms, whatever you want to call it, networking, people think that's secondary, it's primary. Mindset and network is number 1A, 2, or whatever. But without that, all this other stuff, meaningless. Like the network's the most important thing. Network is your net worth. Getting out there and finding your tribe. You don't have to send anyone your resume if you have the right network.
Justin, do you have a favorite question or two that you like to use to ask a company's? In your case, I guess it's that you're going to do business with, but in a recruit's case, in terms of if they're going to be their employer, to get to know that company better. Is there a way that you can really, you think, find out the heart and soul of that company through a few questions?
Yep. So nobody cares about what you do. They care about who you are. But if they care about who you are, they will care about what you do. I don't care what someone does unless they care about who they are. And if I care about them, I'll care about what they do. Companies, whatever. That's just landing the plane. The person is what matters. That's what I said. Mindset one, network two. So I never ask about the company. I ask about the person. I ask about their family. I ask about, where'd you come from? Your parents. I don't even tell people what I do unless they ask. I never talk about it. And it's interesting because it's pretty much come up in this. Like I haven't even really talked about what my company does because one, I don't care. Two, that's not what matters. It's your mindset and your network, and then people who will find you, then they'll want to work with you. Very simple.
Do you think that being in transition, looking for a job, is different today than it was 15 years ago? And if you do, what's the two or three major shifts that have taken place?
Man, that's an interesting question. 15 years ago, 15 months ago, 15 weeks ago, since COVID, however many weeks COVID is. So here's the way I describe finding a job. It's a black hole. It's basically a black hole without mindset and network. It's a black hole. Making your resume stand out, all that stuff, black hole, disappears into the abyss. What will happen, what's already, I'm sure, happening now is people will create technologies and businesses that will allow this process to be much more streamlined and create far more qualified leads. That's the innovation and the visionary kind of things that I will be excited to see as they evolve, especially since COVID, but even in the next year or two. Because people not having to go to offices a lot anymore or as much, you've created an international workforce basically. And so that will be interesting to see how companies hire people in that regard as that continues to evolve. Because we're just at stage one really of that, and it will new normal, that nonsensical term, but whatever that is. And I just call that progress / evolution. And so it'll be interesting to see what companies, how they evolve in terms of hiring people on a international work from home kind of scale.
So, Justin, is transition management different somehow if you're older, if you're a woman, if you're a minority, if you're a fill in the blank?
Well, so I'm 43, I'm a white male. 40% of my clients are women and or minority solopreneurs or business owners. So from my perspective, what I see in terms of a business perspective with my clients, no, there's no difference. And my oldest client has been 76, youngest is 22, and the youngest person I sent a contract to was 17. So all genders, all races, everything, all countries around the world. It doesn't, whatever, and all verticals except politics. I won't work in politics. So from what I've seen, if you have the right mindset, none of that other stuff. It's get it done. Since I haven't hired anyone in a corporate level in a long time, I was managing editor, sports editor, assistant managing editor, senior editor, so I've hired people. There was and I did that for 20 years. I saw no difference between minority, women, age, nothing. It was the best person for the job.
Justin, how does time management impact a person who is in transition, and how do you deal with making time be your ally?
Yeah, so all we have is time. That's the great equalizer, is time. And I don't waste time. Time vampires are I don't have any enemies per se, but time vampires, people that just talk and don't take action, those are thorn in my side or whatever. So time is everything. Make the most of your time. Why my company's been successful is I just do what I like to do and what I'm good at, and then I spend my time only talking to people that understand me, or finding those people. And if they don't understand, they go away pretty quickly. But the ones that do understand, introduced me to more people like that. And that's really what my company is tens of thousands of people that we understand each other. And that just keeps growing every single day. So that's the most important thing, is managing your time and doing things that align with making the best use of that time.
Any techniques that you have picked up over the years that helps you manage that time
Yes.
most effectively?
Yep. So Strategic Coach is maybe the top entrepreneurial group in the world for mindset, for budgeting time, for spending more time with your family. Dan Sullivan, who's the co-founder, he's my hero. He's the greatest entrepreneurial coach probably who's ever lived. I'm very comfortable saying that, and the who's who of every entrepreneur many of them would agree with me on that. So a main part of that program is helping you focus on what you're good at and what you like to do, and just spending your time doing those things and not spending your time doing things that you don't like to do or in things that you're not good at, or a combination of both. So I just spend time doing what I like to do and what I'm good at. Very simple. Don't do anything. Don't waste any time on things that I'm not good at or what I like to do. So in terms of the question you ask, for whoever it is, it's like, hey, what do I like to do? What am I good at? What will get me to this next level? Focusing on that and just spend your time doing that. Don't get distracted by things.
How do you answer that killer question? Tell me what your weaknesses are.
Yeah, so in terms of connecting people on a global level and getting people in news at the highest level, there are very few people in the world that are better at it than I am. I'm a really good dad, really, really good dad, pretty good husband, and I'm useless besides that. Everything else is a weakness, everything. So that's the opposite of arrogance. Arrogant people think they're great at everything. I'm actually terrible weakness at almost everything. If I have a weakness in something, I do not do it, or I hire someone to do it, or outsource something. I don't do it. 99.9% of things I have very high level of weakness. I just don't happen to do any of those things because it doesn't make me happy. I don't like to do it. I'm not good at it, and it's a waste of my time to kind of combine every question you just said and answer it that way.
And if your friend that we talked about before that got laid off because his company went out of business due to COVID, and he said, Justin, tell me, what's that number one job hunting tip that I should keep in mind? What's that number one job tip you would tell him?
Finding a job, if we're specifically talking about finding a job, not starting a business. So if we're going to answer it that way, then it is talk to as many people as you can, and it's a numbers game. So again, I reached out to 5,000 people to get my first 5 clients. That's essentially I found 5 jobs. Talking to 5,000 people, I found 5 jobs. You just keep talking to people, and there's no failure. There's no failure. You're either winning or learning. So if you didn't get the job, you learned something. If you got the job, you won. Numbers game. There's no giving up. You just keep doing it.
Any books or other resources that you'd recommend to someone who's going through a transition?
Yep. One, I don't think we even mentioned it, but I did write an international best-selling book called Epic Business that basically talks about how I built a international company from nothing in 3 years. So that is a good book. But the book I have books all over my house. I don't watch a lot of TV. If I get bored, I just start reading these books. So there's a really good one, really, really good one called The Compound Effect. It's by Darren Hardy. Really good book. It's sold over 1 million copies. It's New York Times bestseller, all that stuff, whatever. But so it basically talks about, in some ways, the things that I was talking about here. It's small incremental gains, incremental gains, incremental gains. And then you put in that work, you see the small incremental gains, and then after a while, there's this compound effect, and then it explodes. It explodes. Or what if that means you get the job or you get the promotion or whatever that is. You sign your first 6K client or 6-figure client, whatever that is. You just you just build a momentum, keep building momentum. So the compound effect is really, really good read for anyone who's just trying to get to that next level or figure it out.
I've read that book. It's good for lots of different things. And
correct.
Certainly in transition would be one of them.
Yep.
So Justin, kind of a last wrap-up question here. If our listeners only remember 3 things as they're going through transition themselves that you want them to remember, what are those 3 things you want them to take with them?
Sure. No excuses. No excuses. No. There's no. You just action speaks louder than words, and no excuses. Action and numbers game.
Justin Breen, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for really hitting hard some key facts about that people need to keep in mind as they're going through transition, whether it's the next job or starting their own business. I think you gave them some really good insights and some actionable items that I think that can help them in the days and weeks to come. So Justin, on behalf of everyone, thank you so much for your time.
Bob, thank you. And again, with LinkedIn, if you are looking for a job, I'm happy to post something on your behalf and tag you. I do that all the time, so happy to do it.
Thank you, Justin. That's a great offer you're giving them.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast. We're working in unprecedented times as the world responds to the recent COVID-19 crisis. The fact is that even those who are not in transition understand it could be right around the corner, next month or a year from now. The purpose of these episodes are to give listeners support and the critical tools to adjust with the winds, wherever they come. I'll continue to introduce you to guests who have successfully, perhaps gracefully, or without too many battle scars, survived their own obstacle courses, and can share useful information on how to steady your ship or your world in this uncertainty. If today's message was helpful to you, please share it on social media. If you have any questions or podcast ideas for future conversations, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I appreciate your time you're investing in sharing these important conversations with me, my guests, and others who are going through life transition. Transitions between jobs, life stages, new entrepreneurial ventures, or whatever life brings. Change is constant. The more prepared you are for it, the better and easier the change will occur. Thank you again. This is your host, Bob Gerst. See you at our next episode of People in Transition.